By the time that this video does go live, Ripple Swell would have already have ended. However, I do want to put a spotlight on a few things. Number one, I did see a post over the last couple of days that came up on my timeline, and it was from Paul Barron. Now, going off of this post, we do have a breakdown of just the power on the stage at Ripple Swell. We have Ripple Swell 2025 speaker lineup tells you everything about Ripple's strategy. November 4th through the 5th in New York City isn't just another crypto conference. Here's what the speakers reveal about what's coming. Power on stage: BlackRock, NASDAQ, BNY Global, Citi, FTI, Franklin Templeton, White House. This isn't crypto people. This is real finance. What BlackRock plus Franklin on stage means is that both have filed and are filing for an XRP ETF application, getting crowded, but they will be significant players. You don't put ETF applicants on stage at an issuer event unless you're very confident. Now, I will say this, okay? The main thing that I'm really looking at when it comes to Ripple Swell, and the name's tied back to Ripple Swell, is I'm seeing the convergence of TradFi and DeFi. I'm also seeing the fact that Ripple has always held a conference like this. Okay, you got to remember that David Schwartz, Ripple's previous CTO, told us a while back that Ripple Swell was so interesting because it's a banking conference held by a blockchain-based company. That stuck with me for years because even today we know that Ripple is still that blockchain-based company that's still holding a event like Ripple Swell where some of the biggest names around TradFi come. Citi, JP Morgan, BlackRock, NASDAQ, BNY. I mean, it's crazy to see these names. But again, this is because we are witnessing the real shift. Crypto has always been that serious player in the room. But now people are finally starting to take it serious. That's the difference. Now, I did quote this post and I did say, institutional DeFi is 100% the focus of Ripple's. They're still building the institutional DeFi portal around XRP and the XRP ledger. Just like Brad said, XRP is at the center of everything Ripple does. Now, you guys, if you have been watching the channel for some time, then you already know about the institutional DeFi portal. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to February of this year, where this is from Cointelegraph. XRP Ledger unveils institutional DeFi roadmap. Now, this is where Ripple Labs was hoping to accelerate XRP Ledger's growth by leaning into institutional DeFi, including RWAs. The roadmap itself included crucial things like MPTs, the permission decks, all that kind of stuff. A lot of this has already gone live on the XRP Ledger. We're still waiting on a few things, but the main thing that was revealed to us was the fact that Ripple is committed and fully hyper-focused on institutional DeFi. Then we got this update on September 22nd, which was the next phase of institutional DeFi on the XRP Ledger: credit, compliance, and confidentiality. So in this, there's a few things. Right off the rip, they did talk about how the XRP Ledger has entered the top tier of institutional DeFi with 1 billion plus in monthly stablecoin volume and top 10 RWA activity. Beyond that, credentials and deep freeze are now live. This strengthens compliance for institutions. The upcoming native lending protocol will unlock low-cost compliant credit markets at the protocol level, and then zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs, are in development to balance privacy, compliance, and scalability. With lending, compliance, programmability, and tokenization converging, the XRP Ledger is emerging as the leading chain for institutional finance. Again, all of this is crucial to focus on because what this is telling us is that the ground is ripe. The ground is ripe around XRP and the XRPL to be fully embraced around institutional DeFi initiatives. To build on top of this, they are still building the institutional DeFi portal. This is in a current wait list. It's not out yet. It's still in development, but this is a platform to help financial institutions bring their businesses on-chain powered by both the XRP ledger and XRP. These are the use cases. Tokenized assets enable XRP deposits, allow XRP trading. We talked about this. We've addressed this in the past, but this is a clear view of how serious Ripple is about institutional DeFi. And yes, it does take me back to that post from Brad Garlinghouse from the 24th, where he did say, I'm reminding you all that XRP sits at the center of everything Ripple does. Because again, it's very clear by the DeFi portal, by these phases that they're showing us around DeFi for the XRP ledger, that they are 100% committed to institutional DeFi on the XRP ledger in a big way. Now, beyond that, we got another video clip, and big shout to Subjective Views for this. Based on everything we witnessed over the last few years, it should be crystal clear to everyone by now that the XRP ledger is purpose-built for institutional finance. Check this out.
Assets firm that does a lot of work on the XRP ledger, which is another example of a ledger that is designed for institutional finance. So in terms of the regulatory environment, I agree with what Marcello said. I think I would add, there has been a problem of oversimplification, which I think goes back to the fact that regulators and central banks are still learning about these technologies, and over the last few years they have lacked a detailed technical understanding of the sorts of features that public blockchains can have in order to mitigate the sorts of concerns that they have. So I've had conversations in the past where it really seems that they're most familiar with something like the Bitcoin ledger, and that's what they're thinking about, and they're identifying why that couldn't be used for institutional finance. So I think many of us would agree with that assessment, but there is a growing appreciation, and this is very welcome, of the diversity of blockchains, and that some blockchains have been purpose built to address the sorts of concerns that regulators have. But I think the key challenge for us as an industry is actually one of educating regulators and central banks and making sure they have the expertise, the technical expertise that they need in order to be able to judge whether or not a particular blockchain delivers the sorts of outcomes that they are looking for. And that's I think it's that's a challenge for them, but it's also a challenge for us.
So yeah, listen, when we think about what's been happening around the space, what's been the main focus from the legitimate, more mature ecosystems, it's institutional DeFi. Institutions, DeFi, this is what almost every big player is focused on at this moment. We recently talked about this even with Hedera. Hedera is fully embracing institutional DeFi. Any big player in this space that is, taking this space serious, that's a mature player, that's, fully committed to the future of crypto, they are at this moment focused on the institutional side. Now, to build on top of this, we also have Securitize. Remember the announcement back in September that Securitize was partnering up with Ripple to enable ROUSD transfers for both BlackRock's Build and VanEck's VBill tokenized funds. This was all based around ROUSD. I bring this back up because when we think about institutional DeFi, what is institutional DeFi? Institutional DeFi is going to combine tokenization with DeFi related processes. I bring up this post from Securitize because we recently got an update from Carlos Domingo, CEO of Securitize, on which industries can and will benefit from tokenization. Big shout to Altcoin Crypto for this. Check this out.
You're more accessible, obviously pending the regulatory, framework, makes it easier to consume for retail people. Like, large investors, they have armies of people that they can deal with inefficiencies in markets that retail people don't have. So I think it's a great equalizer for accessing financial services products.
So if this is about the rails and about changing the rails, getting things that are not tokenized, so then they're more easily accessible, things are faster, things settle more quickly, who ends up losing out here?
That's a very good question. I think the incumbents, right, the intermediaries that sit in between those
who are they?
transactions. You know, clearinghouses, central securities depositories, transfer agents we need to modernize. So transfer agents think they'll still be there, but in a modern version of them. You know, distributors like wealth management.
Give us some names.
You want me to be provocative?
Yeah, well, I just want you to, if you're thinking about a future like this, like where do people not want to be?
I think one of the things that probably disappears is the clearinghouses, right? Because the blockchain settles the trades, and the blockchain is the settlement layer, and therefore you don't need an intermediary to settle trades.
Are we just going to hear the clearinghouses at some point say that they're going to tokenize whatever's in their inventory as well?
Well, they are already saying, but that actually doesn't change anything, right? Because you know, tokenization is about changing the market structure to eliminate intermediaries. So if the existing intermediaries are just stay there as intermediaries, but tokenizing something, it doesn't really, you know, create any improvements to the market structure.
Do most people not even notice? Let's say we get to that world where everything is tokenized. Will the end user not even notice this world?
That's a very good question. So I think that tokenization or tokenized finance eventually will become finance, the same thing that internet companies are just companies today, right? So I think blockchains at some point, when they are integrated on the endpoints of consumers, will just disappear behind the scenes as another infrastructure. They're the same way that internet. Back in the days, you might remember you had to like dial up and have a modem and all that stuff. And today, everything is connected to the internet and it's transparent, right? So I do think blockchains will eventually become completely transparent.
And this is 100% true. When we think about the underlying tech, when we think about blockchain itself, it's the back end. It's the back end tech. So if we're thinking about institutional DeFi, if we're thinking about all of these major moves happening around crypto, I go back to what Ripple's really creating with this, you know, platform that they have, aka the XRP ledger, right? Like, we got to remember that the XRP ledger is a network. They are utilizing the network. They are embracing the network for institutional DeFi. Everything that they are addressing here is core infrastructure that's needed for institutional players to tap in and tokenize, and then also build on top of those tokenized assets. This is why when we even look at, you know, what they're mentioning down here, they're mentioning all of the pieces that are needed to support institutional purposes, but this also includes compliance-driven scenarios like stablecoin issuance and RWA settlement. Because again, when it comes back to tokenization, we're not just having tokenized assets, you know, moving on chain and just sitting there. No. They're going to act just like any asset will in tokenization or in DeFi related protocols. This is why tokenization is so important to focus on. And if we're thinking about DeFi itself, remember that Brad Garlinghouse back on October 20th just announced Evernorth with Ashish Birla, as well as, you know, his team. This is all to support DeFi yield opportunities for XRP. This is institutional lending, liquidity provisioning, and DeFi yield opportunities. And then also, we put a spotlight on all of the acquisitions. All of this stuff is based around institutional capabilities. I mean, it's crazy at this point that people don't realize what Ripple's end goal here is, what their 100% focus is, which is institutional grade DeFi and institutional grade adoption of their platform, which 100% involves XRP and the XRPL. This is the next big wave. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.